Okay, so I want to take a minute to discuss the music video for Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco's Younger and Hotter Than Me, because I think I've talked before about how a lot of the artists that are associated with Taylor, a lot of the people that are friends with her, people that kind of came up in the industry at the same time, are, we believe, part of the New Romantics. Basically a group of artists who are using similar metaphors, similar imagery, things like that to discuss their problems, the industry, things of that nature. And obviously Selena Gomez, being one of Taylor's longtime best friends, is somebody that is very frequently tracked as a member of the New Romantics. And I think there's a lot of imagery present in this music video that kind of has a lot of the hallmarks of things that we would expect for the New Romantics, kind of questioning the industry, questioning the childhood, trying to grow up your inner child after like being a really traumatic childhood in the industry, things of that nature. And it is a beautiful spring morning, so I'm trying to film this outside, but I'm really hoping that the wind isn't going to completely screw up my audio, so apologize if I'm holding my mic the whole time to try and prevent it from getting wind. I don't have one of those thingamajiggies for it, the wind thing. So first off, there is a lot going on in this music video, and this is a non-exhaustive report on it, right? Because I think I'm going to have more and more thoughts the more I watch this, the more I watch her other music videos, things of that nature, the more I get familiar with her album and her songs. I admit Selena is not an artist that I listen to a tremendous amount. There are a number of songs of hers that I like, but she's not somebody that I follow as voraciously as like Taylor Swift, obviously, but I definitely love her music. I really love the new sound that she's been experimenting with Benny, and in this song in particular, I really love how there's acoustic moments, especially towards the end, because I think those acoustic moments, those like moments where it's just her raw vocals, are an interesting contrast to the highly produced rest of the song, right? But I'm not really interested in discussing the song. I'm not really interested in discussing the lyrics. I want to discuss the music video because I think the music video is saying so much more than the song itself is. So let's start with the film set imagery, right? So I think the film set is meant to be taken both literally and metaphorically. Literally in the fact that like she grew up on a set. She associates a lot of her life and a lot of her achievements with happening on a set. But metaphorically, I think it's also supposed to represent a psych ward, and we're going to get into that more, why I think there's hint of that, things of that nature. Obviously in a lot of Taylor's work, she's been hinting more at mental health issues, maybe needing to be taken away. I was supposed to be sent away, but they forgot to come and get me. I think even though she herself wasn't necessarily sent away, she saw a lot of people in her inner circle get sent away. She saw a lot of people connected to her get sent away, and she has seen like the impact that that can have on somebody, especially with somebody like a Britney Spears figure, where her mental health, her poor mental health, was used as an excuse to put her in a very restrictive conservatorship. But let's go through the music video scene by scene, shall we? See if I can use my sweater as a wind block. So when we first see Selena, it looks like she's waking up alone in a comfortable bed. That illusion is shattered relatively quickly as the camera starts panning back and we see, A, she's dressed in what looks like more appropriate clothes for a funeral or something like that, then going to bed. And then we see all of the furniture is covered with fabric drapes and things of that nature. And I'm reminded of when people have like a guest house or a beach house and they cover everything up when they're not going to be at that house so the furniture doesn't get damaged, things of that nature. But I also think it could be analogous to a padded room or a similar protective type place, something in a psych ward. The camera keeps moving and we eventually see that she's on a film set, but not just a film set, an abandoned film set, a film set that we don't see anybody else acknowledge or go to. It's almost something that only exists for her, that has been forgotten by anybody but her. And she's wearing a fair bit of jewelry, but one of the things that sticks out the most, one of the things that's focused on the most, is this bee necklace. And obviously Justin Bieber, but also obviously Benny Blanco. And I think the reason there's only a single bee, like she could get rid of the ambiguity by having a double bee necklace, and then everybody would know, okay, Benny Blanco, that's what it's for. That single bee allows an ambiguity. It allows it to be processed both ways. Maybe it's related to Bieber, maybe it's related to something that she still has hanging off of her, some feelings that she still has that are like chaining her, that are restricting her, keeping her from progressing, but also it can be representative of like her new relationship, something that has really helped support her while she was on her healing journey. So next she goes into like the set bathroom. It's one of those bathroom trailers, and she starts brushing her teeth. Now, I don't mean to insinuate that like I personally think it's gross when people brush their teeth in public, but like you wouldn't necessarily expect to see a Selena Gomez type figure just brushing her teeth in public. You would expect her to have some sort of a trailer of her own. This is kind of a symbol that like she's living there, she's spending all her time there, but she doesn't have like a trailer. And we know at the end they show trailers. We know trailers are available. It's not something like there's no trailer available. This is her ostensibly living on set. And obviously, like I said, I don't necessarily judge people for brushing teeth in public, but but some people think it's gross and dirty, especially in a public restroom where there's a lot of other people's germs. And we see that there's another person in the bathroom with her. It is a young girl who is in a princess outfit, and I think that girl is supposed to represent, like the set, two different things. A, it's kind of like in the sense of Taylor's song Nothing New, where she's like reflecting on the new generation of pop princess, but also I think it's supposed to be indicative of who she was when she was in Wizards of Waverly Place. A previous version of herself may look at the current version of herself and be more judgmental than another person might be. But there's like a feeling of shame kind of attached to the whole thing, and you see her reaction to the shame is that she goes to the craft services table, she grabs a donut. Obviously a lot of people would look at a donut and think it's something not necessarily healthy, it's not really a meal. I personally love donuts, but especially since people have been very judgmental about her weight, I think the choice to make this a donut is a very poignant one. It's a very important one, and especially because of what Benny brings her later. While she's eating the donut, she's looking over to another area of the film set where there's a bunch of kids that are singing and dancing and performing, kind of like a Disney Channel-esque type set. And I think this is kind of reflective of the fact that, like, even though she has aged, there's a part of her that is still rooted in the past. There's a part of her that has arrested development. Taylor and other celebrities have talked before about this kind of thing that happens to a lot of celebrities where, like, it's traumatic to become famous, so they kind of get rooted almost emotionally at the age that they were when they first became famous, when that trauma first occurred. And Taylor has said, like, you really have to work, you really have to put in the work with yourself and things like that to be able to progress emotionally past that point. And obviously high school sets things like that are metaphors and places that Taylor uses herself very frequently. Again, the connection back to New Romantics. But I think it's also indicative of the fact that, like, Selena is rooted in some place that is not current, it is not the present day. And I think Selena was kind of rooted in her past until she embarked on a healing journey, and we get to see the beginnings of that healing journey in a little bit. So Selena goes back to this bedroom set and she does a lot of the things that people do when they're trying to heal. It seems like she's journaling, she's pacing, she's talking on the phone, she's eating a little bit of popcorn, she's reading a book. A lot of these things are big parts of inner child healing, just going and doing the work on your own. Like reading books like Untamed is the one that I always come back, where you like learn how to disassemble the negative notions, the things that aren't helping you, the things that are contributing to your pain, and you really learn how to express yourself as who you want to be, who you want to be seen as. And I think this scene is really important because I think if we didn't have this scene, when Benny shows up later, it would be very easy for people to attribute her healing, all of that, to Benny. It's very much like Taylor. Even though Taylor has kind of put it in her work a lot that she had to do the work, she had to work to heal herself, everybody kind of looks at Travis and is like, oh, Travis healed her, la da 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 da. And I think the reason that's such a negative notion is because a lot of people will take those notions into their own relationships. And I think when you're hoping that somebody else is going to heal you, there's a very big chance that somebody with malevolent intention can come in and can actually hurt you. I think that some people are able to heal side by side with a partner, and I think a lot of people may attribute the healing to the partner, but healing is work that needs to come from within, and especially when it's something like inner child work, when you have a hurt inner child, when you have a part of yourself that is not fully developed, that is not fully matured, and that part needs to be nurtured and cared for. It needs to be largely nurtured and cared for by yourself, especially initially. You really need to start working on that yourself in order to identify the type of people that are just out to hurt you. There's that old idiom, like, you need to love yourself before you love somebody else, and I actually have wanted to do a video on that entire idiom because I think it's such an important thing, and I think it's something that people dismiss. But I think one of the most important things is when you love yourself and when you treat yourself with love, it becomes more evident the type of people who are not treating you with equal love, who are trying to use you, who are trying to control you, who are trying to use your mental health against you. And I think very frequently people will come in, and a lot of times they're narcissistic people, and they will act like they are helping you. They will try to help you. They will do things to help you. But as soon as they have you under their spell, they turn tail, they change into a different person, and then you're hurt. Worse. And because of the lighting, her outfit really looks like navy blue here, but it's lighter than the black outfit that she was wearing before. It's darker than it appears later because I believe that this is the outfit that she's wearing for the remainder of the video. I just think it's very deliberately lit in a way to make it appear darker because I think both her clothes and the light on the set is reflective of like how her healing journey is going. And as she's in that montage where she's doing the initial steps of beginning to heal, we really see like the light start to stream in. It's like cracks are forming in her darkened world and allowing this light to come in. I think it's a visual indicator of her mental health and her progress at that point. So next we see her walking hand in hand with Benny. Like I said, I think it's the same outfit as before, but we can see that the hoodie that she's wearing is like a medium blue, and initially it does look like it's stained. It's not stained, it's got doodles on it, but then we also see Benny, and Benny is wearing a white shirt and blue jeans. I think it's meant to indicate that he is a benevolent force in her life, and like I said, I think it's so important that we have that montage early on of her doing all of the steps necessary to start the healing process, because a lot of people would be like, oh, she's healing because of Benny. And I think he does an important role of supporting her in her healing journey, but as we see in the end, it's a journey she has to complete on her own. He can't be there for the entirety of it. And Benny has something with him that is revealed to be food. He nurtures her literally and figuratively. They have a good conversation. They're kind of being affectionate to each other. They're not like kissing or making out or anything like that. It's just them being romantic and him being affectionate to her and really caring and supporting her even when she's kind of at a darkened point. And pointedly, he's one of the only figures other than the princess in the bathroom who actually sees and acknowledges Selena in any way. When you see her walking through the set past other people look at her and you can see kind of glints that they recognize her. And you see her face, like she's not looking like she's well, but none of them ask if she's okay. Nobody is trying to help her. Nobody is trying to like, hey, why are you living on set? Why are you doing this? And it really is kind of representative of the fact that like she feels isolated, especially when you're having a mental health crisis. It can really feel isolating if like you feel like you're acting like you're in a bad state and no one seems to notice, no one seems to care, or much worse, people notice but they don't care enough to try and help, to try and see if you're okay, to try and see if you need anything. Benny is the only person other than that princess that really gives her an important moment of acknowledgement. And I do think that that is indicative of the fact that he is one of the few people who has seen through her facade, seen through the person that she has put on, the mask that she has put on to survive in Hollywood for her whole life. He is one of the few people to see the actual her, even when she's at her lowest, and to accept that and to acknowledge that and to love that without judgment. So Benny leaves when it's still light out, and while he's departing, you see a yellow gate, the kind of like parking lot gate type thing that raises and lowers, but you pointedly do not see Selena cross to the other side. It's something that she's stuck in. And I think both him leaving during the day and the fact that she obviously cannot leave are additional evidence to the fact that this is meant to represent like a psych ward or psychiatric hospital or something of that nature, because she cannot leave until she's ready. She cannot leave until she's fully healed. But also, visiting hours tend to be during the day. Your visitors can't stay the whole time. Your visitors can only stop very briefly to check on you and to give you some socialization, but you need to really be focused on your healing. Like, as somebody who has spent time in a psych ward myself, they really want you to focus on your healing. And if your outside visitors are distracting you from that, they will send them away. They will be like, hey, you need to focus on yourself. You need to focus on your healing before you can continue on and before you can leave. And this is when we really start to see close-ups of her outfit. She is wearing a hoodie, but you don't see any strings on it. You see that her shoes are kind of like slipper, flip-flop type things. They're the type of, like, this is the type of outfit that everyone wears in the psych ward, because you're not allowed to have drawstrings or shoelaces or anything that you could possibly use to harm yourself. And we can finally see the things that are doodled on her sweatshirt. There's like a bull on her shoulder and there's like a demon on her stomach. And I thought the positioning of both of those was interesting, right? Because I would almost expect like the devil or the demon to be on her shoulder, kind of like the angel on one side, the devil on the other side. The positioning right here, like above the womb, I think is meant to be symbolic. It could possibly be related to a pregnancy or the absence of a pregnancy or something of that nature. Like I said, I don't really know enough about her personal life to kind of speculate to that degree. So I did a little bit more research because I thought that this was something that Selena had talked about before, and she has actually said that because of her medical conditions, she is unable to have children on her own. And I do wonder if the kind of demon over her abdomen is meant to symbolize that, because I know, especially for people that do really want to have kids, being unable to have kids on your own can be a really crushing blow. It can feel like your body's against you. It can feel like there's something that is working against you within your own flesh, and that is just, it's very difficult to deal with. Like, as somebody that is disabled myself, as somebody that has multiple medical conditions, it can very often feel like your whole body is working against you, and I'm kind of wondering if that is symbolic of that. But it's very interesting to me where they have chose to put those, and I need to figure out if that hoodie comes that way or if they put those doodles on that hoodie specifically for the music video. And also, as Benny departs, we see behind him, like, I think it's the Sunset recording studio. Sunset and Sunset Boulevard are another symbol that has been heavily associated with Taylor, the New Romantics, things of that nature. And I think it's another indicator of the fact that like something that is inaccessible to her until she heals. Now, after Benny departs, it starts to get dark and she goes down a long alley that feels a lot smaller than it did before. And when she was initially walking with Benny, everything was kind of like pastel colored, everything was kind of like brighter, cheerful, things of that nature. But this is just very devoid of any color. You just have a couple of single lights lighting her way. It's kind of like a single beacon or a dual beacon through the darkness, because sometimes there's one light, sometimes there's two lights. And it kind of reminds me, A, of the fact that like mental health journeys are not linear. Often there's ups and downs, but also like when you are in a ward like that, it can be very sad when your visitors leave. I know for some people that were around me, as soon as their visitors left, like it was hard for them to like get back on their path to focus on the healing they were making. There was a little bit of progress that was lost. But regardless, healing is very seldom linear. We have ups and downs, and often it is darkest before the dawn. Often it gets much, much worse before it finally starts to get better. And as she's going down the alley, we see her pass by these other sets. We see her pass by these trailers. We see her pass by these other signs that like there is life here, there are activities here, there are other things going on here, but she is still going back to that abandoned set. There is still a big part of her that is rooted back on that abandoned set from her youth, because she hasn't done enough work to heal, because she's not ready to move on yet, because she still has work to do, because she hasn't overcome her demons enough to leave. That demon is still on her. And I often wonder if that bull is supposed to represent stubbornness or pride or other things that are like personally preventing her from moving on. And one of the things that I discuss a lot with regards to Taylor is like the performance of it all, how often she is putting on a performance for her fans, for the media, things of that nature. And I think one of the reasons that all of the actions happen on a set in this video is because so much of Selena's life has been very similar. She has had to put on performances both at work and outside of work, and in order to survive and all of those things of that nature. It is very difficult for child celebrities. We act as though the reason a lot of child celebrities fall into drug use and things of that nature is because of personal failings on their own. Like, we don't acknowledge the fact that Hollywood show business is inherently a very toxic, harmful, hurtful place that almost no children escape from with their mental health intact. Even Taylor, who is often regarded as one of the few child celebrities who is able to like grow to adulthood without having a major like mental health spiral, we realized that she did have a major mental health spiral. She just knew not to have it in public, or she chose not to have it in public, or she wasn't allowed to have it in public. She suffered very quietly on her own, and I think a lot of celebrities do. Like, I think one of the reasons Justin Bieber has had so many problems in his life is because even if you ignore everything that might have happened with Diddy, so many of the things that happened to him, like, I am a little bit older than him, so I remember very clearly when he was like 15, 16 years old, and these grown-ass women would be like groping him and things of that nature. I think a lot of times we act like it's easier on boys because we think that they're not being predated on, and I think it's just, until very recently, they were just less likely to admit that they were predated on because of the shame associated with it. There is still so much shame associated, especially with men coming forward and saying that things make bad things happen to them. And like I said about the performance, like when you are spending all your time putting on a performance, when you're spending all of your time being someone else, you don't have time to devote to who you actually are, to grow as an actual person yourself. I think that's why so many child stars, and also just so many children that had bad things happen to them in their youth, that part of their inner child that is in that state of arrested development, because they've had to put on a performance, because they've had to put on a mask to prevent themselves from incurring additional harm, because they haven't been able to show the damage. They haven't been able to show how sad they really are. They haven't been allowed to show just how much sad they really had in them. And all in all, I really like this music video, especially for everything that it symbolizes, and especially for the fact that it kind of represents Selena as being on a healing journey, as being on a journey to grow as herself, and to actually find supportive relationships and people that actually care about her, and not people who are just cared about themselves and, you know, their own lives and things of that nature. But that's enough yammering about that for now. I'm hoping this is a little bit of a quicker video because my videos have been so long recently. Please let me know what you thought about this music video. If you'd like me to go over Selena's other music videos from this album, please let me know. I'd be happy to do that. I think there's one other available. I admit I haven't even watched it yet, but I know people on Tumblr have asked me to talk about it, so I will at least be talking about it there. But let me know if you'd like for me to talk about it here. And obviously more content about Taylor is coming. That stuff just takes so much longer for me to make, so, you know. Thank you so very much for watching. I am still a small channel, so your likes, comments, and subscriptions really do help me out a lot. I make a lot of content doing serious reviews on pop music, especially from a sapphic lens, especially of Taylor Swift. So if any of that stuff interests you, I have a ton of videos. I'm sure you'll like something else. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.